Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. Ridge tells 5 disgusting words even when Taylor knelt down and begged him to stay with her. What's next for Nick? Brokenhearted, vengeful, and washed up. Nick is back. He has his eye on Brooke, whose heart is committed to Ridge. She left him hanging, literally, after the boat crash. Revisiting Nick and Taylor. Nick and Taylor have incredible chemistry. They have a complicated history that involves Brooke and Ridge. They find themselves on the sidelines, waiting for a chance at love because of them. But what if they give one another a second chance? Nick and Taylor will both be brokenhearted after the Italy trips. We want to see them comfort one another. They might talk about the good old days at Nick's house late at night. Since Taylor will be kicked out of the Forrester mansion, she will need to find a new home. We would love for this show to return to this relationship. Brothers in step combat, of course. There's also the opportunity that Nick won't give up on Brooke. Nick doesn't care if Ridge saved her life, and they sealed the deal with a kiss. There was a reason why he came to Los Angeles. Nick wants to get Brooke away from the King Waffler. We have a feeling that Nick will give up easily. He might knock out Ridge once he finds out what happened. He will go after him for messing with Brooke's feelings, which is what Ridge is doing. He doesn't know whether he wants Brooke or Taylor. His heart changes as quickly as the wind. What are your thoughts? What do you think is next for Nick? Do you think he will suffer a heartbreak in the end? Or, do you think he'll make a stay in international waters? Sound off below in the comments section. Taylor's discovery. Taylor Hayes is going to find out about Ridge Forrester's rescue. Keep reading and let's talk about what is coming up in the CBS soap opera. There will also be Brooke Logan and Ridge Forrester's return from Italy. Taylor will know she has lost her man when they see Ridge together. So, Taylor's next move is what? Will she play dirty to get Ridge back? Or could she move on with someone else? During the week of August 11th, 2025, which storyline are you most excited to see? Taylor had bought just yesterday hoping to please him, turned glacial as Ridge stood framed in the doorway, his silhouette sharp and unforgiving against the harsh hallway light. He wasn't packing, wasn't raging, that terrifying calmness was worse, a finality settling over him like dust. Taylor, her world fracturing with each silent second he didn't meet her frantic gaze, felt the ground dissolve beneath her feet. The carefully curated life they'd built, the shared jokes whispered in the dark, the future sketched on napkins, the fragile trust painstakingly glued back together after past fractures, was shattering into irreparable shards. Desperation, raw and primal, clawed its way up her throat, a suffocating tide that drowned reason, drowned pride. The polished wooden floor felt shockingly cold and hard against her knees as she sank down, the impact jarring up her spine, a physical echo of the internal collapse. Her hands, trembling violently, reached out, not to grab, but to beseech, fingers hovering inches from the immaculate fabric of his trousers, terrified to touch and shatter this last chance. Tears, hot and relentless, carved paths through her makeup, blurring her vision, turning his impassive face into a cruel, shimmering abstraction. Ridge, please, her voice, usually so clear, was a ragged whisper scraped raw by panic, don't do this. Please, just, talk to me. Whatever it is, whatever I did, whatever you think I didn't do, we can fix it. I know we can. Remember? Remember us? Remember how it felt? The words tumbled out, fractured pleas punctuated by choked sobs, each syllable drenched in a love so profound it felt like a physical organ being ripped out. She offered apologies for things she hadn't done, promises she wasn't sure she could keep, bargaining chips she didn't possess, anything to plug the gaping hole he was tearing through their existence. I'll change, I'll be better, I'll be whatever you need, she gasped, her forehead almost touching the floor now in a posture of utter abasement, the scent of wood polish and dust filling her nostrils, mingling with the salt of her tears. Just don't walk out that door. Please, Ridge. Stay. Stay with me. Her entire being was concentrated in that plea, a raw nerve exposed on the cold floor, every atom vibrating with the terror of his leaving. He shifted his weight, a minute adjustment that felt like an earthquake. Slowly, deliberately, he looked down. Not with pity, not with sorrow, but with an unnerving detachment, as if observing a particularly persistent insect. His sunglasses, perched high on his head indoors, caught the lamplight, reflecting her own broken image back at her, a distorted, kneeling figure of abject misery. A muscle flickered in his jaw, the only sign of life beneath the icy veneer. Then, his lips parted. The silence that had been heavy now became absolute, a vacuum waiting to be filled with annihilation. The 5 words that emerged weren't shouted, weren't spat, they were delivered with a chilling, clinical precision, each syllable dropping into the suffocating quiet like a stone into a still pond, rippling outwards with devastating, irreversible force. "You're pathetic." The first word hit like a physical blow, a sucker punch to the solar plexus of her soul. It wasn't anger, it was a cold statement of fact, an assessment delivered with the finality of a judge's gavel. It reduced every shared dream, every vulnerability offered, every ounce of love she'd poured into him, into a single, humiliating label. The foundation of her self-worth, already cracked, crumbled to dust beneath its weight. Always were. The second phrase wasn't just a confirmation, it was a historical revision, poisoning their entire past. It negated every moment of strength she'd ever shown, every achievement, every time she'd supported him, every laugh they'd shared. It painted her entire existence within their relationship as a sustained performance of inadequacy, a lie he'd merely tolerated until now. The warmth of their memories instantly froze, preserved not in affection but in the amber of his contempt. "I never loved you." The third sentence wasn't just a rejection of the present, it was an erasure of history itself. It turned every whispered "I love you," every tender touch, every sacrifice, every future plan woven together, into a grotesque, elaborate fraud. It wasn't that he stopped loving her, it was that the love she'd built her life upon, the love she would have died for, never existed. It was the ultimate invalidation, rendering her devotion, her kneeling desperation, not just futile, but laughable, built on a foundation of pure fiction. "Look at you." The fourth phrase, dripping with icy disgust, forced her awareness back onto her physical self in that moment of utter degradation. It wasn't a command, it was an indictment. It made her hyper-aware of the snot mingling with tears on her face, the smeared makeup, the awkward, vulnerable angle of her body on the floor, the trembling hands still outstretched in useless supplication. He wasn't seeing the woman he knew, he was seeing a repulsive spectacle of need, a confirmation of the pathetic creature he'd named. The shame was scalding, turning her skin to fire. "I don't want you." The final blow wasn't a single word, but 5 delivered with hammer-strike separation. Each syllable was a nail driven into the coffin of us. It was the absolute, unequivocal termination. Not "I need space," not "it's complicated," not "I'm not in love with you." It was the brutal, unadorned truth of repulsion. Want. The absence of basic desire, the negation of her very existence as something desirable, lovable, or even tolerable. It reduced her to an unwanted object, a burden to be discarded. "I don't want you." The period after each word was the sound of doors slamming shut, forever. The silence that followed wasn't just an absence of sound, it was an act of force, a crushing weight pressing down on the ruins left by his words. Taylor remained frozen on her knees, the cold of the floor now seeping deep into her bones, a fitting counterpoint to the glacial void expanding within her chest where her heart had been. The pleas died in her throat, choked off by the sheer, suffocating magnitude of the hatred and contempt laid bare. She didn't sob, didn't scream, she simply stopped. The reflection in his sunglasses was no longer a person, just a broken thing, hollowed out, confirming the truth of every disgusting syllable he'd uttered. Ridge didn't wait for a reaction. The verdict had been delivered, the sentence passed. He turned, the movement fluid and devoid of hesitation. The door didn't slam, it clicked shut with a soft, devastating finality, a sound as insignificant and yet as world-ending as the snap of a neck. The lock engaged with a quiet snick, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the suffocating stillness. Taylor was left alone in the beautiful, empty apartment, the scent of lilies suddenly cloying and rotten, kneeling on the hard floor, the 5 disgusting words echoing in the cavernous silence he left behind, not just marking the end, but erasing the very meaning of everything that came before. They weren't just insults, they were an acid bath dissolving the portrait of their shared life, leaving only a toxic residue and the chilling certainty that the person she loved most saw her as utterly worthless, had perhaps always seen her that way, and had finally articulated the disgust with perfect, annihilating clarity. The trembling ceased, replaced by a terrifying stillness. The tears stopped, as if the wellspring of her emotions had been cauterized by his contempt. She was simply gone, a shell kneeling in the ruins, the echo of "I don't want you," the only thing left vibrating in the hollow space where her soul had been. The world hadn't ended with a bang, but with 5 precisely chosen words, leaving her kneeling in an apocalypse of silence. Nick Marone, he's back in Los Angeles, a man adrift not on the open sea, but on a churning tide of bitterness and thwarted desire, utterly washed up in the emotional wreckage Brooke Logan left in her wake after that fateful boat crash, an event culminating not in shared salvation, but in her literally leaving him hanging, dangling over an abyss both physical and existential, while she scrambled back to the suffocating, gilded cage of Ridge Forrester's arms. That rejection, brutal and public, carved a canyon through his pride and ignited a cold, smoldering fury that refuses to be extinguished, transforming the once confident, self-made entrepreneur into a specter of his former self, haunted by the phantom touch of Brooke's promises and the visceral image of her choosing Ridge, always Ridge, sealing that betrayal not just with words whispered in the Italian moonlight, but with a kiss that landed like a physical blow across Nick's already fractured heart, leaving him profoundly, incurably heartbroken. Yet, this isn't the quiet despair of surrender, it's the volatile precursor to something darker, sharper, a consuming, revengeful energy that crackles around him like static before a storm. His singular focus, laser-sharp and dangerous, remains fixed on Brooke, a prize he feels was stolen, a destiny interrupted by the keen waffler, Ridge Forrester, whose heroic act saving Brooke from the very disaster Nick feels responsible for preventing only deepens the insult, twisting the knife of inadequacy. Nick didn't traverse oceans merely to witness Brooke's continued enslavement to Ridge's mercurial heart, he came to dismantle it, to pry her free from the gravitational pull of the Forrester name and its emotionally incontinent patriarch, convinced with every fiber of his being that Ridge, perpetually torn between Brooke and Taylor Hayes like a child unable to choose between toys, is poison to Brooke's happiness and stability, a truth Nick believes he alone possesses the clarity and courage to act upon, regardless of the collateral damage or the bridges he must burn in the process, his own moral compass seemingly shattered by the intensity of his betrayal. But the path forward for this wounded, volatile Nick is shrouded in the thick fog of Los Angeles intrigue and his own turbulent emotions, presenting not a single road, but a treacherous fork where potential salvation might ironically lie with the very woman who once represented his greatest romantic rival, Taylor Hayes. The history between Nick and Taylor is a complex tapestry woven with threads of genuine connection, fierce competition, and profound mutual understanding forged in the crucible of loving and losing to Brooke and Ridge. They share the unique, isolating perspective of being perpetual runners-up in the grand, exhausting marathon of Brooke and Ridge's epic romance, perpetually sidelined, perpetually watching their own hearts play second fiddle to a love story that consumes everything in its path. They possess an undeniable, simmering chemistry, a blend of intellectual respect and shared battle scars, that has flickered into life before, offering glimpses of a profound partnership that could transcend the petty dramas of the Forrester-Logan sphere. Now, circumstances conspire to thrust them back into each other's orbit, both poised to return from Italy nursing fresh, gaping wounds inflicted by the very people they loved, Brooke's definitive rejection of Nick echoing Taylor's own inevitable heartbreak as Ridge, true to his waffling nature, undoubtedly pulls away once more, leaving Taylor adrift. Imagine the potent, melancholic intimacy of late nights at Nick's place, the harsh LA lights dimmed, glasses of something strong in hand, as two bruised souls find unexpected solace not just in shared commiseration over Ridge's indecisiveness and Brooke's choices, but in reminiscing about the old times, the battles fought, the victories stolen, the quiet moments of connection they once shared that were overshadowed by the Brooke and Ridge supernova. Taylor, facing the added indignity of being kicked out of the Forrester mansion, a stark symbol of her temporary place in Ridge's life and the Forrester family's shifting allegiances, needs sanctuary, a place to rebuild her shattered self-esteem and medical career away from the toxic glamour of the estate. Nick's home, pragmatic and removed from the Forrester epicenter, could become that haven, a neutral ground where proximity and shared vulnerability could reignite their dormant spark, offering a compelling, mature alternative to the cyclical chaos. This potential reunion isn't just fan service, it's a narrative goldmine, a chance to explore a relationship built on mutual respect and hard-won wisdom, a second chance forged not in naive passion, but in the sobering embers of shared disillusionment, a defiant stand against the gravitational pull of their former obsessions. However, the siren song of Brooke remains perilously loud for Nick, making the prospect of him simply walking away into Taylor's comforting arms far from guaranteed. His current state is a tinderbox of wounded pride and possessive fury. The news of Ridge's heroic rescue and the subsequent, intimacy-affirming kiss in Italy won't be met with stoic acceptance, but likely with a volcanic eruption of rage. Nick doesn't see Ridge as a savior, he sees him as the thief who stole his moment, his woman, and his dignity. The potential for stepbrothers at war is not merely an opportunity, it feels like an inevitable, violent crescendo. Nick's pent-up aggression, simmering since the boat crash, could easily explode into a physical confrontation, picturing him knock out Ridge in a blind rage, whether in the hallowed halls of Forrester Creations, Brooke's living room, or a crowded restaurant, is disturbingly plausible. His justification won't be mere jealousy, it will be framed as righteous anger, a defense of Brooke's fragile heart against Ridge's emotional terrorism. Nick will go after him, verbally and potentially physically, for messing with Brooke's feelings, weaponizing Ridge's well-documented history of indecision. He can't decide whether he wants Taylor or Brooke. His heart changes as quickly as the wind, as undeniable proof of Ridge's unworthiness. In Nick's fractured worldview, he is the constant, the devoted one Ridge could never be. This path is inherently self-destructive, a kamikaze mission against the Forrester fortress that could alienate Brooke further, destroy any lingering familial ties with Ridge, tenuous as they may be, and potentially land him in legal jeopardy. Yet, the allure of striking back, of making Ridge pay, of proving his own strength and worth in the most primal way, might be irresistible to a man drowning in feelings of powerlessness and humiliation. It's a path paved with thorns, leading not to Brooke's arms, but deeper into isolation and bitterness. Nick and Taylor have incredible chemistry. They have a complicated history that involves Brooke and Ridge. They find themselves on the sidelines, waiting for a chance at love because of them. But what if they give one another a second chance? Nick and Taylor will both be broken-hearted after the Italy trips. We want to see them comfort one another. They might talk about the good old days at Nick's house late at night. Since Taylor will be kicked out of the Forrester mansion, she will need to find a new home. We would love for this show to return to this relationship. Brothers in step combat, of course. There's also the opportunity that Nick won't give up on Brooke. Nick doesn't care if Ridge saved her life, and they sealed the deal with a kiss. There was a reason why he came to Los Angeles. Nick wants to get Brooke away from the King Waffler. So, what is next for the tempest-tossed Nick Marone? The specter of a broken heart is not just a possibility, it's his current, agonizing reality. Whether that heartbreak consumes him entirely or becomes the catalyst for a painful metamorphosis is the central question. Will he channel his rage into a futile, destructive war against Ridge, ensuring his own exile from Brooke's world and any chance of peace? Or will the shared desolation with Taylor offer an unexpected harbor, a chance to heal not through vengeance, but through a profound, hard-earned connection that transcends the old rivalries? There's also the wild card, the escape hatch whispered in the query. Could the man who once found solace on the ocean simply say enough, cut his losses, and make a stay in international waters permanent? A self-imposed exile, leaving the tangled mess of Los Angeles love affairs far behind, might seem the only way to preserve what's left of his sanity and identity. This path, while offering peace, feels like a surrender, an admission that the Forresters and Logans truly broke him. Nick stands at a precipice. His next move, whether a lunge towards revenge, a tentative step towards Taylor's solace, or a retreat into the vast, anonymous blue, will define not just his immediate future, but the very core of who he becomes, a man forever defined by his losses, or one who finds a way, however unexpected, to reclaim his narrative from the wreckage. The only certainty is that Nick's return guarantees turbulence, his heartbreak is a live wire, his revenge a loaded gun, and Los Angeles, perpetually sunny, is about to feel the shockwaves of his storm.